A suckling, sometimes called a sucker, a pup, or a youngling, is basically the child version of a Yautja. The Hish-qu-Ten had their own terms for these juvenile hunters, often calling them Spawnlings, or less flatteringly, floor creepers. We're going to tell you everything there is to know about baby Yautjas, or sucklings. We're also going to keep this intro short and cut to the chase, so before we begin, please consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons. Those two small clicks from you will help us tremendously in bringing you more of these marvelous videos. Now, let's begin. So, what really are sucklings? Sucklings don't get a lot of screen time across the expanded lore, but when they do show up, usually described as smaller, less intimidating versions of their adult counterparts. The Kleda, a Yautja, once noted that Machiko was roughly the size of a Yautja child, which would put a suckling at about 5 feet tall. Wait, who's Machiko? Well, Machiko Noguchi was this hotshot executive who happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time and ended up fighting a xenomorph horde alongside a clan of Yautjas. She did so well that their leader invited her to be a part of their clan, making her one of the first human predators ever. We already covered her story in a marvelous video, and we suggest you check it out. You won't regret it. But coming back to the sucklings, in the comic titled Predator Forever Midnight, word is that spawnlings are closer to 1 meter, which makes them half the size of a grown hunter. That tracks with what we've seen. Small, yes, but still sturdy enough to survive in a world everything's trying to kill you. Litter sizes. We don't have confirmation about whether Yautja births happen one at a time or if they come out in bunches, but there's a pattern. Siblings usually work in pairs or groups of 3 and seem to be of the same age and rank. Think Celtic, Scar, and Chopper from Alien vs. Predator, 3 brothers around the same level, possibly telling that they were a litter of 3. Then again, they could be half-siblings who share a father, which would mirror the dynamic between Nemonde and Dachande. If Yautja biology follows the general trend found in Earth's mammals, the half-sibling theory gains ground. Usually, animals produce about half as many offspring as they have nipples. The Hish, though, beat these odds. They had 6 pups at once every time. But they don't keep them all. In most cases, only the strongest survive, and the weak ones, well, more often than not, they're sent off to something called a recycler. Harsh, but that's how the Hish lived their lives, and if we're being honest, this might hold true for the mainstream Yautja clans as well. Wait, that's the second time we brought up the Hish, right? We've spoken about them in other videos, but we'll explain it for you quick here too. So the predators were not always the giant honorable hunting freaks that we know them to be. Once upon a time, they were known as the Hish-qu-Ten, a race of rather animalistic beings with no sentience. Then, a parasitic race called the Amengi conquered their planet and started experimenting on the Hish, reason being that the Amengi wanted the Hish to become stronger and sturdier so that their gladiatorial duels would be more interesting. Eventually, the Hish turned on their masters and gained their freedom. The one to lead this rebel group was Ka'il, the first predator who snapped the skull and spine of the most powerful Amengi and kept it as a trophy. So yeah, it's not rare for one suckling to have a ridiculous number of half-siblings. High-ranking males, like leaders, and to attract a crowd. Chonde alone had 73 offspring under his belt. Temperament and upbringing. Female Yautja likely go into estrus on a shared seasonal schedule, which means a bunch of pups would be born around the same time. These kids are raised primarily by their mothers on the homeworld in a society where females lead the clans and guard the territory. Now, we don't know much about how the females raise their daughters, but the males, they're wired for hostility. Even as pups, they don't hesitate to throw hands or claws if they feel disrespect, but because they're still growing, they aren't allowed to settle things to the death, only through what's called claw challenges. Whether female pups show the same kind of aggression is unclear. Chonde, the one who took Machiko in, took note of her composed nature and saw it as feminine, which suggests young Yautja females might be less volatile. That said, Dachande also mentions seeing tenderness in even the smallest of children, so maybe it's not biological. Maybe the males are shaped that way deliberately, prepping them early for the cutthroat warrior life. Once a youngling learns to stand and walk, no one coddles them. Dachande himself got smacked aside by a passing female when he got in the way, remembered it fondly. So apparently that kind of treatment is part of growing up in the Yautja lifestyle. By Earth standards, they're seen as physical young adults around the age of 60. Still, nobody considers them fully grown until they earn their stripes, by getting blooded. And yes, one of the first things a pup is expected to handle, wrist blades. Training. The near absence of female hunters or even non-combat roles like healers or thinkers suggests most male pups are funneled straight into warrior life. Wrist blades are shoved into their hands early in their lives, which means that they probably start learning the ropes pretty young. Exactly when they stop being a pup and become unblooded isn't explained clearly, but we do know that this period involves absorbing the culture and legends of their people. Stories about the Black Warrior, lessons about the hunt, and fear-based tales featuring the dreaded Umans. What's still up in the air is whether Yautja even have a concept of teenage years or if their society operates in binary. Either you're a kid or you're a warrior. Oh, and the Black Warrior is kind of like a god for the predators. So that's pretty much it for the Predator Sucklings, but you know what? There are other versions of Younglings in the Predator franchise, so let's take a look at a few of those. Hish-qu-Ten Spawnlings. The Hish-qu-Ten appeared in Predator Forever Midnight. Unlike standard Yautja, these Hish-qu-Ten can produce 6 offspring at a time. The Spawnlings are born from a female, but the interesting thing is that Hish-qu-Ten can switch sexes involuntarily, which makes us wonder if predators can do that as well. I mean, usually female predators look like male predators. Instead of teaching their young to hunt through direct exposure or mentoring, they go the remote control route. They hook their Spawnlings into surrogate humans, allowing the children to see through human eyes and manipulate their bodies like puppets. Basically what Bran Stark does with Hodor. These surrogates could be anyone. Adult men, women, even children. The young Hish take part in their version of training by attacking others through these unwilling proxies. Comes to naming, Spawnlings usually take a part of their parents' name. For example, one of Sheshkuk's sons was named Shesh-Turk, which suggests a kind of bloodline marker embedded in their identity. The children of Big Mama. In Aliens vs. Predator, Deadliest of the Species, we get a rare look at predator parenthood. Female Yautja, known as Big Mama, ends up in a pretty desperate situation. A corporate entity called Montcalm Delacroix at sea kidnapped her teenage children. That was enough to push her into an unlikely alliance with a human, Ash Parnell. Her entire mission hinged on getting her kids back. Ash compared her to a lioness, protective, relentless, and willing to tear apart anything in her way to reach her cubs. Big Mama's reunion with her children wasn't shown directly, but by the end they appeared safe, 4 of them asleep inside stasis pods while she stood by watching over them. It's one of the few times we see a predator express maternal care so openly. It adds a whole new layer to the usually cold and ruthless species. Young blood predators. There's also the young blood phase, the moment a juvenile predator edges into adulthood. They may look like full-grown warriors, but they haven't yet earned their stripes. These guys are still untrained and mostly a mess, reckless, not yet tempered by the grind of a real hunt. That's where the blooding ritual comes in. This is their first real test, the one that can launch them into the elite ranks if they survive it. The tradition usually involves hunting xenomorphs. Once a young blood kills its first xenomorph, it gets marked with the acidic blood of the creature, right across the forehead and on the biomask. That scar means everything. It's proof that you faced death and earned your place, but it's not a guarantee. Many young bloods never make it past this trial. For some, first hunt becomes the last. Predators kidnapping human children. In 2018's The Predator, Quinn McKenna's son, Rory, ends up wearing a predator mask as a Halloween costume. On the surface, it's harmless fun, until the mask blows up half a house. That scene wasn't meant to imply Rory was some sort of predator child, but it does tie into a bigger thread. The movie later reveals that predators have taken an interest in abducting human children. The reason? Their DNA, more specifically traits they consider upgrades. In Rory's case, it was his high intellect, possibly linked to his autism. The logic behind this is shaky, but it seems the hybrid predators were aiming to borrow the mental capabilities of humans while shedding the traits they didn't want. It's another example of how far these aliens are willing to go to evolve their species, even if it means experimenting on kids. Marvelous verdict. There's not a lot of clear-cut information on predator children, but bits and pieces across books and comics help paint a rough picture. Sucklings are born with umbilical cords and raised by their mothers. As toddlers, they've shown emotional attachment to their mother, and as they grow older, they move towards the hunt and learn the ways of their people. Teenagers appear on ships, they mix with adults, and start showing signs of independence. Then you've got the Hish-qu-Ten, who have the whole gender-switching biology and bizarre training methods. They produce more children, but the process is anything but nurturing. Their young don't get family bonding, they get remote control targets and genetic manipulation. Compared to them, Yautja seem downright traditional. Unfortunately, that's all we got for you on Yautja Younglings, but we really appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.